disconnect at from patient port. So that's that side. This is coming from the patient. When you're done, press accept.
So to patient, from patient. What do they call this?
Connect to from patient port. It's just a filter. Unblock Y. Make sure you don't hit that on anything.
Compliance calibration is this into the checking compliance as part of the SST.
Yeah. It comes up here. Like the expiratory filter, the pressure is at 60 liters a minute. I think the compliance may come up on the last part.
I remember
Like I said,
everything.
that's all part of your
2.67.
freaking
Okay.
test. So here's your compliance. And
That's the compliance factor.
I asked if we ever used it in the hospital? No.
So that's the 91. And it's done.
That's it. So now SST complete. Exit the SST and press accept it. Okay, now the machine's gonna shut down.
Do I
No
hook it up
talking.
yet or no?
No, you don't attach that to anything until they're actually ready to be put on. Okay. So now we're gonna hook up your patient. So we say, nope, you're not hooking anything up yet. You're gonna get your patient going. So you're getting a patient into the ER, not really sure what's going on with them. So in this case, everybody technically has normal lungs because you have no idea what's going on. So that's when, on that chart that I gave you, that's how you're gonna hook it up.
I'll be
Though
able to do my math, sorry.
your book is gonna be different. So let's say the patient is 70 kilograms.
Okay.
So your tidal volume is going to be 6 to 8 mLs
70.
per kg.
Times 6. So my low is 420.
Okay, that's what we're going to ask you. What would the low be and what would the high be? And then you can pick a number in between.
So
that.
say the in-between is going to be 550.
Okay, so it's a new patient. A new patient, and we said it was 70 kilograms. So all this machine, it's touch, then go, touch, go. Continue. Okay. So like I said, everybody that comes in, you're mostly going to go on AC. SIMV and pressure support are usually just on patients that you're starting to wean. So everybody, you have no idea what's going on with them. Pretty much everybody goes on AC. So that's going to be your mode. Let me just go through this with you.
Okay.
On the 840, this is the vent types. There's invasive and there's non-invasive. Rarely do you ever see non-invasive. Non-invasive is only if you're putting a patient on like BiPAP. So the mode, anytime they're going to be intubated, trach, whatever, it always has to be invasive mode. Okay? There's 4 modes on the 840. You have assist control, you have IMV, you have a spontaneous mode, and you have bi-level. Rarely do you ever use bi-level.
What is it for?
I was gonna say, what is bi-level? 'Cause
Bi-level
I
is-
don't know how to use it.
Is
it, that's what it is?
no, it's not BiPAP. Who said BiPAP?
I said too, yes.
Oh, bi-level. It's a little like BiPAP
That's what the
in a
book
sense,
says.
but you're setting a high peep and a low peep, and it's just to help with oxygenation, and it's pretty much a last-ditch effort. You ever use it? Unless it's like a last-ditch effort? No. It's just to help. If a patient's not oxygenating and you've tried everything else, you can try doing that. And what it is the patient's actually breathing spontaneous. So you set that high peep and then they breathe in between that and then it dumps it out. And then it goes to the high peep again, breathes in between and dumps it out. So you don't really use it.
Square.
No.
Okay, so
Okay.
Square is you're breathing in, you're hold it, drop. Breathe in, hold it, hold it.
Machine updated with the RBC or no?
No. No.
So we always want to be an AC.
All right, so AC to when you're starting off. IMV is you're setting a rate, you're setting a tidal volume, but you're also adding pressure support with that. And with that, the patient can breathe spontaneous, and on those spontaneous breaths, they're just using that pressure support, and they're taking in their own tidal volume. Right, spontaneous is strictly just for weaning. That's a patient ready to be extubated, hopefully. You put them on pressure support mode, and that's them breathing strictly on their own with the help of pressure support. Okay, the vent's not set at a rate, it's not set at a tidal volume, it's just giving them whatever the patient is doing on their own.
And you would still set your alarms though. the
Yep,
same.
you would set your alarms. We'll go through that. So let's start with AC. Now there's volume control AC or there's pressure control AC. So you can either set a volume or you can set a pressure, depending on what's going on. If you have a patient that has really high peak pressures, and I'm not going to say it's a last ditch effort, but most people go on volume control when they're adults. Kids is mostly where you're going to see your pressure control, where you control the pressures that are going into the lungs, and your tidal volume is going to be different. In volume control, you're controlling the volume that's going in, and your pressures are always going to be different. Your peak pressures will be different. Okay? Then these are your triggers. There's volume trigger, there's pressure trigger. It doesn't really matter which one you use. So then you press continue. Oh, there you are. Okay. I
And
press continue.
so it's just
Sorry.
Mary explained it as just like a displacement of volume or a displacement of pressure. It's not an actual.
So the patient actually has to pull that negative pressure to trigger the ventilator to trigger a breath on their own. Okay. So we said it was a tidal volume of 550. So we're going to put that tidal volume in 550. And what does the rate say on your sheet for a normal lung? Or in the book?
8 to 10.
8 to 10
Well,
for your
and the pill
frequency?
beams, I don't know about.
I think the Egan's one I have open over there, right to the page if you want to get that.
Yeah, pill beams. Oh no. Yeah. 8 to 12. I lied.
What does it say on there?
Normal long said 6 to 8,
Yeah, and what about the frequency?
12 to 16.
And what does this one say?
8 to 12.
8 to 12. All right, so we'll say rated 12.
Where am I?
Are we supposed
Right.
to be vegan?
Respiratory rate.
Yeah, she said Egan. We used to go by that chart. Did you hear that, Ken?
Yeah.
The chart that we always have gone off of, now we're not going off of anymore.
Yeah, she doesn't really
All right.
Okay. Flow. I always start my flow at 65. That's like just a normal roundabout number that you can pretty much use on any adult. So put that to 65. And then you can change that depending on how the patient's actually doing. Okay. Now, the waveform, we said normal
Is the
ramp.
decelerated.
That's how we breathe, so that's how we want the patient to be as comfortable as possible. So just turn it. Now, 3 liters is what I usually do on my volume trigger, and I put -2 for my for the pressure. Is that what you do too? 2 on pressure, 3 on volume. That's just like the roundabout number to do. Because if you put this too low, it can self-trigger, and you'll see a lot of breath stacking going on, which it's really, they're actually not breath stacking, it's just the machine looks like it's picking up. If you put it too high, they won't be able to trigger a breath.
Okay.
All right.
Okay? So 3 for volume, 2 for pressure is the standard. So everybody, they said, would start off at 100%. Yeah, and you can titrate down from that. And then your PEEP, I always start at 5. That's the intrinsic level. So everybody goes on a PEEP of 5. Now, all these numbers look fine. That's all you have to do. So you're going to press accept. Now, when you go in, now these are your apnea parameters that are set up.
Jump back to square. Oh
Because
no, that's
this
because
is your
the other
apnea.
one. Never
You
mind.
want your apnea
And
to
you-
match up with your top.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
you,
match
Emma.
everything you have there.
Can I do this one? Or you do? All right.
It's just press and turn. It's not hard.
Thank you, Emma.
She was big on that.
Now, some people will tell you that they leave their apnea FiO2 on 100% at all times, which you shouldn't do. Only because if you have a COPDer and they go into those apnea backup parameters, now they're switched over to 100%. That's not good for them either.
What's-
So you want to make
Oh,
sure. you're right.
apnea is
That's
what
your
time?
time. Usually
It's
you get
20
seconds.
always.
20
Yeah.
seconds.
Okay.
Some doctors will say 30 seconds and make
So
a
no
recommendation,
excess.
but we do 20, yeah. Except
So are we gonna change the
Change that
O2 on the apnea?
Mm-mm. No, because what are we on right now?
100%.
It's only when we change this number do we change that number. Same goes for all these parameters. If we go up on the rate to 14, you're going to change
I'm sorry,
this to 14.
I was thinking back to the COPD, but if that was the case with the COPD, would you change that? Like if you knew for a fact that you have a COPD
No, because
patient.
you have a patient that's coming into the ER right now, you have no idea what's wrong with them. If you find out that they are a COPDer, you're not going to leave them on 100%. 9 times out of 10, you're going to lower it. So when you lower that, you're going to lower this. So just always
It
match.
has to match no matter what.
Always
All right.
has
So
to
at
match.
this moment, now that you got your vent settings and your apnea settings, now you would hook up the patient,
Correct.
and then you do your alarms.
Correct.
But
In this
that-
case.
Can I ask you a question? Can you explain the V max? What is that?
It's your flow.
Peak flow.
Peak flow.
Okay, so that's, you always just start, and then when would you change it?
When you have your IE ratios, if they start going inverse, or they look like they're air hungry, or they're bucking the vent, or their breath stacking, that's when you want to increase your flow to make it more
But
comfortable.
65 is like a good starting point.
65 is that starting point. Is that where you start it?
You said 60 to 80, right?
Your flow, like 65? Yeah. You'll know, in here, it's totally different from what you do actually in the field. What, you know what I mean? The only thing you really, like if you know you have a head injury coming in, you want to hyperventilate them. So you know you're going to have a higher rate, a higher tidal volume. And normally, you only really go by your minute ventilation on head patients. You don't even really go by your tidal volume or your rate. So it's completely different from, so don't stress out that I'm going to do this wrong when I'm in the hospital. It's totally different. This is just for your test, get through school, and
You'll
be
learn new
fine.
ropes when you start your job.
Correct.
All right.
Like I said, I look at you, I'd put you on 450, probably 450, 500. You would be like 550. You know what I mean? You just look at the patient. My generic settings on a little old lady, 412, 100% 5 a peep. 512, 100% 5 a peep. Everything's rated 12, 500, between 400 to 600, rated 12, 100% 5 a peep.
So can you like give us a scenario
That's
or
it.
something? Or like what kind of scenarios? Like you're gonna go COPD, like
Right, and that's those scenarios that are on
Okay.
like that chart and through the book.
All right.
So that's the ones you have to, let me see that chart real quick.
By looking at that, you have a COPD patient, you have
Right,
a,
so
okay.
here, a COPD patient, you're gonna put them on so we'll give you how much the patient weighs, so let's say like 70 kgs. So you're gonna do 70 times 8 for your tidal volume, between 8 to 10. Your rate is 8 to 12. Your flow is greater than 60, so they could do 80 to 100. So most of them are always descending on the waveform.
which just means you're ramp.
Right, your inspiratory time is you only do really an I time if you're in a pressure control mode or like a VC plus, which this machine doesn't even have VC plus, so you don't have to worry about that. Your PEEP, 5 or less than 5 or 5 to 10, like it tells you everything, and these are your FiO2s.
So if the patient was not, so you have them on, you say you start 5 of PEEP, and they're still not oxygenating, like would you increase the PEEP first, or?
Yeah, but another thing you have to worry about when you start increasing PEEP is you have to look out for their blood pressure. If they have a low blood pressure to begin with, you usually don't want to increase somebody's PEEP because it can totally cause them to code because you're putting so much pressure.
So what would you do? You would
So
work with
in
the
that
FiO2?
case- If the FiO2 is like on 100% and they're on 5 a PEEP, and you could talk to the doctor and be like, listen, they're really not sounding good, their PO2s are coming back on the blood gas, but their blood pressure isn't good, it's really low. Some doctors will say just increase it and let's see what happens, because at that point, if they're not sounding and they have no blood pressure, it's not doing well anyway. So it all depends on the patient. But if you have a patient whose blood pressure is fine, but they're just not oxygenating, that's when you can go up on your PEEP. And usually it goes up by like 2.5, go to like 7.5. If that doesn't work, then you can go up to like 10.
You never really do more than 20, it said, right? You never go over a 20 of PEEP.
I've seen higher, but it's dangerous to go that high. Because you're putting all that pressure.
Blood pressure, imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Low or
So
stable.
go by, I don't know why she's not going off of this all of a sudden, but
She said because somebody stole her pill beam, so she can't use it to go back and reference.
It's her
I
book.
just,
That's
oh,
hers.
your new pill beam. Does anybody have that with them?
I do.
But you're just saying
You have
have
it
an
with you
idea.
here in here?
I don't.
You're just saying